Positive Solutions with Dr. Gordon is a podcast which focuses on contemporary social and educational issues from an educational leadership and behavioral research perspective. We will delve into those issues that are important to you as we listen to understand the needs of others and positively respond to address those needs, concerns, and/or fears. Professionals in their respective fields of expertise, in addition to friends of the podcast, will share their unique perspectives of positive solutions to what matters to you most. Join us every Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time, as we share positive solutions to those issues that are important to you.
A very pleasant good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to Positive Solutions with Dr. Gordon podcast. We're very fortunate to have with us today Izhani Rosa. And Izani is one of the crisis counselors at Island Therapy Solutions right here on St. Croix, United States Virgin Islands. And for those of you who may not know about Island Therapy Solutions, here are some of the services that they offer. I'll just summarize briefly. Island Therapy Solutions is a multi-dimensional practice that focuses on mental health issues and wellness, including psychological and developmental services. And so they offer things like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, adult autism services. They also offer evaluations in neuropsychological care for individuals that need that, as well as psychiatric services. And so Island Therapy has done a wonderful job here on St. Croix in helping schools and also helping individuals, families, providing that wraparound service to individuals. And we're very delighted to have with us Izhani Rosa here with us today. Good afternoon, Izhani. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And let me just give you all some trivia about Izhani. We have royalty in the house. Izhani is our reigning Miss St. Croix of 2019, and it's been extended to 2021 thanks to COVID. So she's our Miss St. Croix, USVI, representing the big island of St. Croix, US Virgin Islands. And she's wearing her crown well in representing us as an island, as well as the community, as far as providing services. She's giving back to the community, and we're very proud of Izani and the work that she has done and is still doing. And you know what? Guess what, folks? Izani recently received her bachelor's degree in Spanish and also in psychology. She was a double major. Not only that, I also understand that Izani not only was a double major in Spanish and psychology, if that wasn't tough enough, she did this in 3 years, holding down 3 jobs. So today we're going to be talking about stress management, and I couldn't think of a better person to talk to than Queen Izhani Rosa, Miss Rosa. So talk to us. Tell us a little bit about, if you want, you can summarize a little bit about what that was like, navigating college, holding down 3 jobs as a double major, and doing this in 3 years. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. How did you do that? And then we'll get into some tips that you can share with our listening and viewing audiences as they navigate life.
Yeah, of course. So again, hi, my name is Izani Rosa. Currently, I'm a crisis counselor at Island Therapy Solutions with the Community Resiliency Project, and school was tough. I learned a lot of time management skills, being able to balance my jobs, my schoolwork, and then obviously when it went online, all my schoolwork was at home at like the same time as my job. It was very strange. It was yeah, it was rough. It was rough, but I learned to like maximize my time throughout the day. You'd wake up early, go to classes, get things done. I used to actually write out my schedules on a piece of paper before doing anything. Like as I registered for classes, I would block out those times on a schedule and then be like, okay, I'm going to work in the library. I had a job in the library doing administrative work these days of the week. I was an RA, so I was like, okay, I have duty these days in the week and these days on the weekend. And then I also worked as a sales associate at Lakeshore Learning, a teacher's resource store and a learning center. So I would then contact my supervisor and say, okay, I can work these days after I've already scheduled out classes, RA, and library. So I think that was the biggest thing that helped me, was just learning time management.
Right. And did you find it helpful to actually write it down on a sheet of paper so that way you can visualize and can actually check things off and move on? Did that help?
Yeah, I'm like a huge visual learner. So what I used to do was take my syllabi, I would like post them up on the wall in my room. I'd put all my syllabi up so I could see all the calendars. I knew everything that I had due. I'd cross them off as they go by. Again, drawing out that schedule. Yeah, so I'm a big visual learner. Drawing, writing, it all helps.
It does help, and I'm the same way too. So kindred spirits, I can relate to that. And it feels good to scratch things off or put a check mark next to those things that you have accomplished. It also helps, well, for me, it helps to be able to, at a glance, see what needs to be done. And that way I can know how to balance my time with what needs to be accomplished and not feel overwhelmed. And I'm not replaying in my mind, okay, what is it that I have to do next? And you try to remember and to think it through. It's on paper. And so I get to review it, check it off, and then move on. So that was, uh, and that's challenging, having one major, having a job, and trying to do this in 4 years. But you did this in 3 years with 3 jobs. Did you find it to be easier though, or helpful that the jobs were on campus? Because you mentioned you were an RA, residence assistant, and also in the library on campus. So that might have helped a little bit. But I mean, it's still a responsibility though to navigate.
Yeah. So 2 of the 3 jobs were on campus for sure. And it was a lot easier because all I had to do was walk where I needed to go. You know, I didn't have to factor in drive time because that's a thing now, especially in the States. But yeah, I mean, the RA job was kind of a 24-hour thing. So I would be doing homework in my room and I'd have a resident knock on the door because they're going through some kind of crisis. And of course, I had to be there for them because that was my job. And, you know, I loved it. I loved my students.
No, absolutely. Right. That is correct. And so you graduated from the University of Tampa. So you were in Florida. So that you didn't have to contend with the cold as much as those of our northern friends, but it still gets cold in Florida.
Oh, yeah. Especially for me, born and raised here, I can't deal with the cold.
When it's like 72 degrees and the wind is blowing, it's like, oh my goodness, it's a cold front coming through.
Yeah.
Bring out the winter jacket. No, I mean, I just mentioned it because, you know, for those individuals who have lived in the United States Virgin Islands or in the Caribbean, when they travel to the United States, if they go up north, that's another factor that they have to become accustomed to, the weather, the temperature, and navigating that as well. And that also plays a sort of a impact on one's psyche to adjust, and it takes time to do that. In Florida, it's warm. The weather's almost similar, but it does get cold. The temperature does dip in the winter months. So stress, you know all about time management. You've modeled that. You've experienced that. Right now, you know, from March 2020, and we're now in March 2021. It's been exactly a year since we've all, the entire world, gone on this alternate life schedule, it seems, where we're now working differently and reimagining and rethinking possible in various aspects. I know in education, we've all gone on to 100% virtual learning and instruction in the United States Virgin Islands. Right now, about 2 weeks ago, we had our kindergarten and third graders to return back to school, and also our seniors who are getting their vocational degrees, not degrees, I'm sorry, their vocational certificates. So they need some hours of hands-on there. So our 4th through 12th graders, though, on the academic track, they're still working 100% virtually. And I've been observing some teachers. This is a month that we are observing and doing teacher evaluations. And going into the classrooms to observe the teachers, I can hear, for example, just yesterday, I was observing one particular class, and this poor 8th grader, she's trying to read an article for the teacher for her class and contribute to the lesson. And in the background, you can hear, I'm guessing it's her parents, because these are adult voices speaking, and she had to mute her mic a number of times, I guess, to say something to her parents or whoever's in the background, and then come back on and continue with her learning. And then I heard like banging, like they were doing some sort of construction, because you can hear like the banging of a hammer, and she had to mute her mic a number of times to say something to them. She'll come back on to continue contributing to the class, and then there'll be a lull, and then you hear the conversation pick up again. There's a whole lot of noise in the background. So it's a challenge for a number of our students as well. So I can only try to begin to imagine the stress factors that they might be experiencing. Are there any tips that you can share? Let's start first with students who might be navigating education and educating themselves 100% virtually.
Yeah, so there are tons of different stress management skills that students can use. Obviously, the first one is your health, stay healthy, not only in exercising, eating properly, but you need to get enough sleep as well, because this is going to be stressful. You're in a hard place in your life right now. Again, that whole virtual learning is just rough. So, doing kind of all of that. There's this practice called visualization. And pretty much what you do is you close your eyes and you visualize yourself doing something. It can be almost anything. Usually if you're stressing about something, you might want to visualize yourself completing that task, and that kind of takes you through the process of how you would go about dealing with whatever it is that's stressing you out. So if you have a big test, you close your eyes and kind of visualize yourself studying and doing the test and how it would feel to get a good grade on that. That kind of calms your body down and helps you motivate you really to do what you got to do.
So positive visualization. If the student even wants to imagine themselves as, hey, I'm the teacher in the class and I know this information already, that might help. Whatever works, that's positive.
And that brings us to just positive reconstruction of your thoughts. Just sitting with yourself and not thinking, wow, this online stuff sucks, because it does. Honestly, there's no other way to say that. It does. It's horrible for the kids especially. But instead of sitting down and just reminiscing on how horrible everything is, you can change your thoughts and be like, okay, this is only temporary. And guess what? I get to be in school and wear my pajama pants still. So taking that, all the negative, and kind of reconstructing it into something possibly positive can just help you feel better. It gives a positive light to, it's the silver lining, if you must,
Having that growth mindset.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is another form of mindfulness as well, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Mindfulness is more than just, thinking and feeling. It has to also do with thought and body. Mindfulness can encompass knowing your triggers, knowing what stresses you out. If you know that you're not good with tests, you may want to start studying earlier. And that's just being mindful of who you are and how you feel.
Right. And one of the things I've shared with students is, just read through your notes every evening if you can. Just read through it. Don't try to memorize. Just read. You'll be surprised that, by the time you're ready for that test, how much of that information has been retained, because you've been so familiar with the material. You've been engaging with it in different forms, not just in the class, but also outside of the classroom as well. Right.
Older students, a lot of them like to type out things. I know, in school, I used to do that, not just college. And in high school, I typed out a lot. But what really helped me to low-key memorize things was writing it out. That process of writing actually does help you retain information better. So maybe having them write things out multiple times, write your notes out 2 or 3 times, and you'll see that all of a sudden, wow, you can remember what you learned in class.
Exactly. It comes naturally, and it's not a burden. It's one less stress factor that's there. What about the outside elements like noise, like that one student who was, trying to concentrate and participate in the class, and there's construction, it sounded like, going on, because like I said, you can hear the hammer pounding, like they were demolishing something or putting something up, and she's trying to contribute, and she was doing a very good job at what she was sharing to the class, but she had to mute her mic a number of times. So some students may not have control over the environment, but I'm going to ask you to share. Would you suggest that they try to do as much as they can to control their environment if they can?
Yeah, so I think something that's really important is understanding what you can't and can control. If a student can't control their parents in the back talking or construction going on, it's hard for them. It's tough. But as long as a student, to me, in my opinion, can communicate to the teacher, like, hey, this is happening. Is there any way that I can read in like 5 minutes or in 10 minutes? I think that will help the student like calm down, kind of recenter themselves, because that's hard for them, especially if there's the pressure from the teacher to read and do well in class, but there's all this noise, it's a very unstable environment.
Correct. And I commended the teacher after the class was over and the students had left. And I told her there were two other students who were very quiet. They weren't as talkative. And what she said to the students was, I'd like to invite, and she called their names, into the conversation and share with us your perspective. And she also gave students an opportunity to put into chat their thoughts as well. So she provided alternate means for students to participate. And so that's one thing that as educators who are working virtually, to be mindful of students who might have some challenges. And if students are sort of quiet, provide alternate opportunities for them to also to contribute to the lesson in the class, whether it's by putting something in chat or sharing your screens and contributing that way, or going to a breakout room. There are multiple ways in which we can reimagine education, and where it's not the best situation, like one of the students said yesterday, but it's the safest at this time. And I was very impressed with those 8th graders. They were very mature. And they were the teachers, they were the facilitators and the moderators, and they were the ones in charge of the learning. And the teacher was that guide on the side, just helping them along. And I commended them on that.
You're listening to the podcast Positive Solutions with Dr. Gordon, which is uploaded weekly on Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, on your favorite podcast directory.
So they manage their stress pretty well there. Now, how about adults? Any thoughts to assistant? And adults is kind of broad, so let's keep it, since we're talking about school, we talked about students. What about parents? Parents might have a job and are away from home, but then they have these younger children at home working. Any thoughts to help parents?
Yeah, so the same things honestly really go. The exercising, those endorphins being released into your body make you feel really good. There's things like deep breathing exercises. Sometimes a parent, just like the child, needs to kind of just step away and breathe, because parents are human too. They have emotions. The difference is they can kind of just regulate them a little bit better, maybe. But in this tough time, it's hard to just expect them to be level-headed at all times. So stepping away, doing those deep breathing exercises, filling up your diaphragm with air rather than your chest, that will physically slow down your heart rate, your blood flow, calming you down essentially. Journaling is really good. So writing down things that you're grateful for, writing down a lesson that you learned, getting prompts about positive things in your life. That positive journaling helps a lot, because then you can recenter yourself and just remember, like, okay, it's bad, but it's also okay. I think, like you said, that mindfulness, finding silver linings, those kinds of things are just so important, especially in the time that we're in right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was a life coach that we had on last week, and she mentioned those similar pointers to help individuals to navigate this time in which we're living. And so being present in the moment is one of the things that was mentioned to assist individuals, to support them as they deal with life's stressors, so that they can survive and move on. And you're mentioning also, in addition to the mindfulness, taking care of ourselves physically as well as mentally, which does impact us medically speaking as well as socially speaking. And so penciling ourselves into our busy schedule is vital. All of the assignments that teachers might give to students, or all of the responsibilities that a boss or supervisor might give to their employees are important, but we're just as important as well. So let's take time out to pencil ourselves in to take care of ourselves. And you mentioned deep breathing. There was is it 7-8-7 is a number, a little formula where you inhale for like 7 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds, and then you exhale for, go ahead.
We do 4-7-8. In so again, we on our presentations we'll teach you the 4-7-8 method, which is breathing in for 4 through your nose, holding for 7, and then releasing for 8 through your mouth. And doing that for about 2 to 3 times, maybe, or 2 to 3 minutes a day, usually is pretty calming, even if you're not having stress at that very moment. It feels good, you know?
It's called 4-7-8.
Mhm.
So you inhale for 4 seconds deeply. You hold your breath for
7.
7 seconds, if you can, and then you exhale
For your
for,
for
through
8.
your mouth for 8. Okay.
Honestly, that challenge kind of induces the heart rate to slow down. You know, those same things that I was talking about earlier, those physical responses, because it's so hard on your body, it slows everything down, which
Right.
physically helps you.
And for those individuals who might experience a panic attack, because there's some situations where people might feel like they're out of control. One of the things that I've heard as well is that they need to feel like they're grounded. And so this is this 5, 4, 3, 2. You know, referring to the senses. What are 5 things that you can see? 4 things you can touch. 3 things that you hear. You know, just to get that individual focused and calm. Right.
Um, on that, there's also this technique called a progressive muscle relaxation, or yeah, something like that. And so pretty much what you do is you go from like either head to toe or toe to head, and you tense different parts of your body. So you start by like scrunching up your face and then releasing it, and then scrunching up your shoulders and then releasing it, and your hands and then releasing. And that progressive like tension and then relaxation in your body helps calm you down. So that's, you know, something similar that could help.
Because some people are perhaps tense already, not, you know, unknowingly, and so by consciously doing it and then consciously relaxing then helps the body to relax and help that person to become more relaxed and more aware of their surroundings and what they're dealing. Okay, those are very good tips, and we're taking mental note of those tips. Let's see, what else? What are some other stress management factors that would be helpful to not just students and to parents, but to anyone in general? Would you recommend, because a lot of folks are in front of the screen because of the times in which we're living all day. So would you say distancing ourselves from the screen when we can, like taking a break from the screens to include, you know, our phone, taking a break from the screen, would that also help?
Yeah. It depends, honestly, on the person. I think that's very personal. And as like me being at work, I'm on the computer all day. But when I go home, I'm gonna play games on my phone. And that does like relax me. Although I am still in front of a screen, it's a different screen, you know, it's a smaller one. And it's I'm doing something I like rather than checking my email or, you know, working on presentations for you know, my job and everything. So, but I think it depends on the person. I think younger kids would really benefit from that so that they're separating that. This is schooling, because right now you're doing schooling online. Most of them are back in school, but you're doing schooling online. Here's
Right.
that. And there's playtime. You know, here's when you can just do you, you know, focus on growth. So,
Correct. And so, and also before going to bed, is it also helpful if we have like at least half an hour away from the screen, so that way we can go quicker into our REM sleep and fall asleep than being exposed to the light of the screen? That
yeah, so that goes into like sleep hygiene, and that's actually one of the things that they tell you to do is like when you are in bed, when you're laying down in bed, you don't want to do anything but be in bed.
right.
Like they always tell you, because you know I've taken psychology classes, and we talk about sleep hygiene, and even like things like reading books. You don't necessarily want to do it in bed, although it does make you tired. You should read in a chair, and then when you get sleepy, go to bed. Or like doing work. A lot of people like to do work in their bed. Of course, we're online now, but now your brain is going to start associating your bed with work instead of sleep.
Good point. Right.
Yeah. So you're conditioning yourself essentially to being like, hey, let's do work because you're in bed, right?
Your brain is conditioned. I'm still on. I'm still working, as opposed to it's time to now.
Yeah. And it's really funny that you mentioned that because you know how I said I like to have everything planned out like on a calendar? I actually used to put wind down time, like around like 11 p.m. because, you know, I was a college student. I used to stay up late to do my homework. I'm not gonna lie. Around 11, 12-ish, I would turn off everything, maybe have the TV very low. And that was my wind down time where, you know, I just focused on trying to get to bed, going to sleep, and forgetting about everything, you know, because you have to get sleep. You know, sleep keeps you going.
Right, and the body needs that. And we have our different sleep patterns, but what is usually recommended from what I've read is about 8 hours is what's recommended. For some people, they might say, oh, that's a luxury. I'll be happy if I get 4 or 5. But our body needs that time to rejuvenate. Right. Now, what about those individuals who might be disappointed, discouraged, which happens in life, but then they're drifting now towards despondency, and that's where we don't want individuals to go, because then there's that other step, which is despair, and then we start talking about those severe depressions that could impact those who might think about harming themselves. Any ideas as to how individuals can eliminate or manage the disappointing times that might happen in life, or the discouraging times, because life happens, so that we're not going down that pathway of despondency and then despair? And of course, I'm talking about suicide prevention, and it's not a taboo topic. It's something that needs to be spoken about. In some circles it is taboo, but we just need to talk about it. That's a concern that some teachers and I had a conversation about recently, where a particular student was very active in the first or second quarter, but now they observe a change. And so that student came alive when the teacher started talking about topics like depression and how to manage their time working on the screen, and that student had a lot of information to share. So I encourage the teacher to let the counselor know, of course, but then also, and reach out to the parent and the grandparent, which she did, but also to provide opportunities to get that student to share and to talk. And the teacher did, and the student was just had a lot of information about self-harm, people that cut themselves, people who put themselves on restrictive diets that are unhealthy, and those who have contemplated taking their own lives. So any tips or pointers as to how we can work with not just students, but just individuals, just across the lifespan, to deal with depression or disappointing moments?
Yeah, I think that I would say the number one thing is to seek help. You know, I think we live in a community where mental health is still highly stigmatized, but there's always going to be somebody that cares, you know, and it may not be a mother, a father, a sister, a brother. It might just be a best friend. It might be an auntie and uncle. You know, it might be a teacher. Teachers love their students. And I think that everybody needs to let the people that they love know that they love them and that they can come to them if they need to talk about something. You know,
Right.
just that help could ranting, letting people know that they're sad, they don't understand why, you know, might be able to point them in the right direction. The Community Resiliency Project, again, we are crisis counselors. When people feel like they can't talk to anybody else or they just need help coping, they call us. That's what we're here for. We're the listening ear, the people who care, you know? So they can call us and we'll listen and we'll help them get ways to cope with their sadness, with their near despair, you know?
Right.
Even self-harm, suicide ideation, we can also deal with those types of situations as well. There are suicide hotlines that they can easily call. There's like texting health hotlines where people can
Right.
just text a mental health professional, you know, and talk to them. So there's a lot of resources out there, but I think the biggest thing is just to get that help that you need, you know, reach out to somebody.
Correct. And as you're talking, I was looking at my phone because I have it here, and so I'll have the person that's assisting us with the editing of the video to include this on here. And so, for anyone that might be struggling with depression, and anyone who might be contemplating suicide, here's a number that you can call. It's 1-800-273 8255. So I'll say that again, and I'll have it down below. 1-800-273 8255, and that is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And if that number is kind of hard, because this is a podcast that's not only viewed on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, but it's also, there's an audio version of it. So if you're listening and you're driving, no, don't take out a pen and sheet of paper to try and write it down. But you can just go to 1-800-273-TALK. And that's the acronym for the number. So just remember, like you said correctly, and thank you for sharing that, Izani, talk to someone. There's someone that's willing to listen to you and to hear you out, and know that your life matters, and you are important, you are unique, you're special, and you're needed, and there's help out there. Is there any other number that can they also call? Is there an island therapy number that they can also call?
Yeah, so they would call our office number, which is 340-719-7007. So again, that's 340-719-7007. If they want to speak to somebody, they just say, I want to talk to a crisis counselor, and they will be transferred to me or one of my colleagues, and we'll talk to them. We don't need their name. It's completely anonymous and completely free, so it's a great way to just seek support from somebody.
That is wonderful. And so folks, don't forget, and that's the local number here. That's 340-719-7007. And that's the Island Therapy Solutions. And you'll be connected with one of the crisis counselors. You might get Izani or someone else there in the office. And this is 24/7. That help is there 24/7?
So it's not necessarily, no.
Okay.
Just because we work, so I'm a full-time worker, so I work 8 to 5 Monday to Friday, but we do have weekend work as well. It would be typical business hours pretty much.
Right. But the other national hotline number, that is a 24/7 number. So again, 1-800-273-TALK. So do reach out so that you can get the assistance that you need to be supported and empowered, and have your social and emotional well-being enhanced, because you matter.
Yeah, so the Community Resiliency Project also has a St. Thomas, St. John counterpart. So if you are a listener in St. Thomas or St. John, you can call 340-774-2228, 340-774-2228. And that's in St. Thomas and St. John, and they are managed by Insight Psychological.
Wonderful. Excellent information. So we don't need to drag it out. We just provided information letting individuals know that there's help and that you're not alone. And you have the resources there that is provided for you to provide you with that additional support that you might need. Now, what I love about Island Therapy Solutions as well is that if you're a parent and you have children and you're struggling and they're going through a number of challenges, and so are you as a parent, know that there's a wraparound service provided at Island Therapy Solutions, and feel free to call those numbers that have been provided to you, the 340-719-7007 number, and reach out to them, and they would provide you with those extra resources to support what you're doing at home as well. Any last thoughts, Izani, before I let you go? Because I know you're very busy.
I just want to tell everybody that Island Therapy, the Community Resiliency Project, we are here. We are here for a limited time, but we're here for people who are dealing with different types of trauma. We will do presentations. We can do group counseling sessions. We can do individual counseling sessions. Please feel free to call. Again, it is free and anonymous. You don't have to give us any kind of information about you other than what you're feeling so that we can help you.
Perfect. So we normally end the podcast by saying, folks, we have faith, we have hope, and we have love. The greatest of all those three is love. So let's continue to love ourselves, love those that are around us, so that we can become a better version of ourselves and a healthier community as well. See you next week.
Thank you for joining Positive Solutions with Dr. Gordon as we learned about different perspectives of contemporary social and educational issues. We hope to educate and encourage as we analyze those topics that are important to you. Please continue to join us every Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, as new episodes are uploaded on your favorite podcast directory. Remember, become that positive difference that creates a positive outcome in the lives of others, as well as in your own life. See you next Sunday afternoon on Positive Solutions with Dr. Gordon.